I still remember the first time I met Clara. It was in college during our freshman orientation. She walked in late, heels clicking against the tiled floor, a bold red scarf draped over her shoulders like she owned the room. Everyone turned to look at her, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she flashed that brilliant smile, the kind that made you believe she could do anything. I was the quiet one in the back row, notebook open, hair tied up in a messy bun, trying my best not to be noticed. Yet somehow Clara spotted me. She plopped down in the empty chair beside me, leaned over and whispered, "You look like you actually know what's going on. Mind sharing your notes?" That was the start. From that day forward, we were inseparable. We studied together, laughed together, even dreamed together. Clara wanted fame, the world at her feet, as she used to say. Me? I just wanted stability, a good job, a quiet life, but maybe that was the first red flag. Clara's hunger was never satisfied. She was the type who craved the spotlight, no matter how blinding it was. And I was happy to stand in the shadows, cheering her on. At least I thought I was. By junior year, Clara had discovered theater. The stage became her kingdom. She would rehearse for hours, pouring every ounce of energy into her roles. I watched her transform from the shy girl in the dorm to the star everyone whispered about in the cafeteria. Professors adored her. Students envied her. And me? I was always there, her biggest fan, her quiet support. "Someday," she'd tell me, brushing her hair in our dorm room mirror, "they'll all know my name, and you'll be right there with me. My manager, maybe, or my partner in crime." I laughed back then, not realizing how those words would twist into something darker. The night of her first big performance, I helped her with her makeup, zipped up her glittering dress and whispered, "You've got this." She squeezed my hand, eyes shining with excitement. That night she owned the stage. The applause was deafening, and I felt proud, so proud. But something shifted after that. Clara started getting invited to parties, rubbing shoulders with producers and influencers. She began dressing differently, speaking differently. Even her laughter changed. Louder, sharper, like she was trying to be heard over the world. And slowly, I noticed I was being left behind. At first it was small things. She'd forget to tell me about an event. She'd cancel our movie nights because something more important came up. She'd drop my name mid-conversation, almost as an afterthought. But the biggest crack came one evening at a party. I wasn't even supposed to be there, but a mutual friend dragged me along. Clara was in the center of the room, telling some exaggerated story, and when she spotted me, she smiled. Only it wasn't the smile I remembered. "This is Anna," she told the group. "She's my friend from college. She keeps me grounded, her friend. Just her friend, not her best friend. Not her ride or die, just some tag-along from college." The words stung, but I swallowed them down. I told myself she was nervous, maybe trying to impress people. I told myself she didn't mean it. But when I got home that night, alone, scrolling through social media, I saw the photos. Clara in the middle, surrounded by admirers, laughing like she was on top of the world. And me? I wasn't even in the frame. That was the night I realized our friendship wasn't what I thought it was. Clara was changing, and I was just baggage she'd soon drop. And I was right. Because just weeks later, she did something I never expected. Something that would shatter everything we had built. Something I would never forgive. And that was the night our friendship died. It started with a message, not from Clara, but from another friend. "Hey, saw the interview. She mentioned you. Thought you should know?" I clicked the link with trembling fingers. It was Clara, sitting on a plush velvet chair, smiling at a local TV host. She looked radiant, her makeup flawless, her hair in perfect waves. The host leaned forward. So Clara, tell us, what inspired you to pursue acting? Clara laughed, a soft, rehearsed sound. Oh, it wasn't easy. I had this friend in college who, well, she kind of held me back. She was always so negative, always telling me to be realistic. But I knew I was meant for more. I had to cut ties and chase my dream. My stomach dropped. Held her back? Negative? That wasn't me. That was never me. I had spent years cheering her on, staying up late to help her memorize lines, even skipping my own study session so she could shine. And here she was, on television, painting me as the villain in her story. My phone buzzed nonstop after that. Mutual friends messaged me, some offering sympathy, others asking if it was true. My professors gave me pitying looks. Even my parents, who had loved Clara like a second daughter, called to ask, "What happened between you two?" I was humiliated, betrayed, and worst of all, I had no voice. No platform, no way to defend myself against Clara's version of the truth. But the real betrayal hadn't even come yet. A week later, Clara landed her biggest audition yet, for a supporting role in a major production. I should have been happy for her, but all I felt was a growing ache in my chest. I knew she'd win. Clara always won. What I didn't expect was for her to use me to do it. One night, I left my laptop unattended in the library. When I came back, Clara was sitting there, casually scrolling. "Oh, hey," she said, too quickly, closing the screen. I didn't think much of it, until I realized she had forwarded some of my private essays and personal writing samples to her email. She had stolen my words, and then during her audition, she used them. My phrases, my emotions, my words that I had poured my heart into. The judges loved her. She got the part. I felt sick. The girl who had once been my sister in all but blood had not only betrayed my trust, but used my very soul to step higher. I cried for hours that night, clutching my journal, wondering how I had ever been so blind. But then, as I sat there, broken, something inside me shifted. If Clara thought I was helpless, she was wrong. If she thought she could erase me, she had no idea who she was dealing with. Because I wasn't just a shadow. I wasn't just her forgotten best friend. I was the one who knew her darkest secrets. And I was about to remind her of that. Clara had taken the first shot. Now it was my turn. The weeks after that night felt like walking through a fog. Everywhere I went, her name followed me. On the radio, on Instagram posts, even whispered in the hallways at school. "Can you believe Lila got signed?" A girl in my English class said, showing her phone to her friend. "She's going to be huge," the friend replied, awe painted on her face. I sat silently, pretending to scribble in my notebook, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Lila, my best friend. Lila, the girl I stayed up all night helping rehearse for auditions. Lila, the one who swore we were in this together, and yet she was soaring while I was drowning in her shadow. At first, I tried to reach her. I sent her messages. "Mia, congrats. I saw the news. Proud of you." Read. No reply. Me. "Hey, wanna grab coffee? Haven't seen you in a while." Delivered. No reply. The silence hurt more than any betrayal. She wasn't just busy. She was erasing me. I'd see her online, posting stories from backstage at events, laughing with new faces, other singers, influencers, people who looked like they belonged in a world I could only dream of. One night, scrolling through my feed, I saw it. A photo of Lila surrounded by her new crowd, champagne glasses raised high. The caption, "To the real ones, day ones forever." My heart stopped. Real ones, that was our phrase. She and I used to say that since middle school. Now she was rewriting history, replacing me. I threw my phone across the bed, tears blurring my vision. That night, for the first time, I allowed myself to whisper the truth I'd been avoiding. She's not my best friend anymore. But the story wasn't done. Fate has a cruel way of spinning the wheel back around. Because soon, her star would start to dim, and I would be there to see every flicker fade. It started small, almost invisible. A rumor whispered in online forums. She can't sing live. At first, I brushed it off. People love tearing down rising stars. But then videos surfaced. Grainy clips from concerts where her voice cracked, notes slipping like sand through fingers. The comments grew cruel. Studio-made. She's a fraud. Auto-tune queen. Should have stayed local. One afternoon, I was walking home when a group of kids in front of me were scrolling through TikTok. "Bro, check this," one said, laughing. On the screen, Lila was on stage, her voice trembling, while the caption read, "And she thought she was Beyoncé." The video had 1,000,000 likes. I should have felt pity. Instead, something darker stirred inside me, a part of me that remembered every unanswered text, every smile she gave to new friends while discarding me like old clothes. But the real storm hit when the tabloids joined in. Headlines screamed, "Rising star or falling fraud?" Inside the diva attitude of Lila Gray. Fans turn against overnight sensation. I sat at my desk one night, staring at my laptop screen, scrolling through article after article. It was like watching a tower of cards collapse in slow motion. And then came the final blow. Her label, her golden ticket, dropped her. The news spread like wildfire. Her Instagram went silent. No parties, no champagne-filled stories, no glittering friends. Just silence. One evening, as rain pattered against my window, my phone buzzed. A message. From her, Lila. "Hey, are you free to talk?" I stared at the screen, my breath caught in my throat. After months of being invisible to her, she came crawling back. But this wasn't going to be the reunion she hoped for. Because now, I held the power. The message glowed on my phone like a ghost I thought I'd buried. Lila. "Hey, are you free to talk?" For a long moment I just stared. My heart raced, my fingers twitching over the keyboard. Months ago, I would have leapt at this, answered instantly, desperate to hear her voice. But now I wasn't sure if I wanted to comfort her, or watch her crumble. Finally, I typed, "Me. I'm busy." I hit send. And for the first time in months, the power tilted back toward me. But Lila didn't stop. "Lila, please. I don't have anyone else to talk to." "Lila, I know I messed up. I need a friend right now." Her words were like a blade twisting in my chest. I need a friend. Funny. Where was that plea when she was surrounded by fame? When she was sipping champagne and laughing at jokes I wasn't there to hear? The next day, I saw her in person for the first time in months. She was sitting alone at a cafe, hoodie pulled up, sunglasses covering her face. But she wasn't the same radiant girl from the parties and the magazines. She looked smaller, defeated. Our eyes met through the glass. She froze, then quickly looked down, fumbling with her phone like she hadn't seen me. But she had. I knew she had. That night, another message came. "Lila, I'm sorry for everything. Can we meet?" I stared at it, heart thundering. Every memory of betrayal, every tear I'd shed, every night I'd stayed awake wondering why I wasn't enough. It all surged back. This was my chance. But the question was, would I use it to forgive her? Or to finally let her taste the pain she fed me? I agreed to meet her. Not because I missed her. Not because I wanted closure. But because I wanted her to look me in the eyes and see what she'd destroyed. We met at that same cafe where I'd seen her hiding. When I walked in, she was already there, hands trembling around a cup of untouched coffee. Her once perfect nails were chipped, her eyeliner smudged. She looked human again. "Hey," she said softly when I sat down. Her voice carried no confidence, no star-like sparkle, just exhaustion. "Hey," I replied flatly. For a moment, we just sat in silence. Then she blurted out, "I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing, chasing my dream, but I lost myself along the way." I studied her, my expression unreadable. "You didn't just lose yourself, Lila. You lost me." Her eyes welled with tears. She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. The sting of that rejection registered instantly in her face. "I thought those people were my friends," she whispered. "But when things went bad, they disappeared. They don't even return my calls anymore." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Now you know how it feels." She winced like I'd struck her. "I need you," she said, her voice breaking. "You're the only real friend I've ever had." The words I had once longed to hear now felt like ashes in my mouth. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. "You needed me when you were on top, Lila. Not now, when you're crawling out of the wreckage. You didn't want a friend, you wanted a fan." Her lips parted, but no words came. Tears spilled freely now, streaking down her cheeks. For a fleeting second, a pang of guilt pricked me. This was still the girl I grew up with, the girl I once called sister. But then I remembered that photo, the caption about her real ones, and any sympathy I felt dissolved. I stood up, sliding my chair back. Her eyes widened. "Wait," she begged. "Please, don't walk away." But I did. And with every step I took, I felt her desperation pulling at me like invisible chains. But what she didn't know was this. I wasn't finished. Not yet. Walking out of that cafe, I realized something. Simply ignoring her wasn't enough. Not for what she'd done. Lila had built her fame on betrayal, on stepping over me to climb higher. And now that she was falling, I wasn't going to be her safety net. I was going to be the ground she hit. The first step was subtle. I still had screenshots, messages she'd sent to her new friends, mocking me, calling me dead weight, bragging about cutting me off. Back then, I saved them because they hurt so much I couldn't delete them. Now, they were weapons. I didn't blast them online, not yet. No, that would have been too easy. Instead, I slipped them to the very people she was trying to crawl back to. The agents, the producers, the so-called friends who had once cheered her name. They saw what she said behind their backs. They saw her hypocrisy laid bare. And one by one, doors that were barely cracked open slammed shut again. Meanwhile, I thrived. The project she'd abandoned me for? I'd stayed. I'd worked harder, climbed step by step. And finally, my effort was paying off. A small feature in a magazine, a networking invite, my name whispered where hers used to echo. And the best part? She noticed. One night I received another message. Not an apology this time. Not desperation. It was anger. "Lila, you're behind this, aren't you? They won't even take my calls anymore." I smirked, staring at the glowing screen. Me. "Funny? Isn't that what you did to me?" Her typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. She didn't know what to say. And that silence. Oh, it was delicious. But this wasn't just about ruining her. It was about reclaiming me. It didn't take long before rumors started spreading. Lila wasn't reliable. Lila wasn't professional. Lila wasn't who she pretended to be. At first, she tried to fight it. She posted glossy pictures, forced smiles, long captions about self-love and growth. But the comments told a different story. "Where's your bestie? Thought she was your ride or die. Didn't you shade your friends just to get ahead? We know what you did, Lila." She was cracking, and I watched it all unfold with quiet satisfaction. Then came the final blow. At a public event, a charity gala she begged her way into, she tried to make a grand entrance. Cameras flashed, but not for her. No, they swiveled toward someone else. Toward me. I hadn't planned it that way. But fate, Or maybe karma decided it was my turn. I'd been invited by the organizers to represent the project Lila abandoned. The same project that had grown bigger without her. The moment our eyes met across the room, I knew she felt it. The shift. She was no longer the star, no longer untouchable. She was just forgotten. I walked past her with my head high, photographers snapping, people calling my name. And her? She stood frozen, clutching her glass like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Later that night, I caught a glimpse of her outside, sitting alone on the steps, mascara streaked down her face, her heels discarded beside her. She looked up at me, eyes red, lips trembling. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered when I approached. For a long moment, I just looked at her. This was the girl who stole my dreams, who mocked me, who replaced me. Finally, I leaned in, my voice barely a whisper. "Because you taught me how." Her face crumbled, and I walked away. Weeks passed after the gala, and my life began to transform in ways I had only dreamed about before. My name started appearing in places hers used to. Invitations, interviews, collaborations. I was moving forward, step by step. But Lila was vanishing. Her social media posts grew fewer, her captions shorter, her smile faker. The likes dwindled, the comments turned cruel. Irrelevant. Over. Nobody cares. Those words haunted every update she tried to post. And then one evening, as I left a small award ceremony where I'd been recognized for my work, I saw her again. She was waiting outside, shivering slightly in the cold, her once polished look now replaced with something raw and broken. "You win," she said bitterly when she caught my eye. "Is that what you wanted?" I stared at her. A part of me almost pitied her, but only almost. Because I remembered the nights I cried over her betrayal, the humiliation, the loneliness. "No," I said finally, my voice calm but firm. "I didn't do this to win. You lost because you couldn't stay loyal. You betrayed the only person who truly cared for you." Her eyes glistened. For a second, I thought she might apologize. But instead, she looked away, muttering something I couldn't catch. She turned and disappeared into the crowd, swallowed by the night. And I knew. That was the last time she'd ever stand in my way. Months later, the answer was clear. I didn't hear from Lila again. She had slipped into silence, into irrelevance. No calls, no headlines, no flashing cameras. The world moved on and she was just forgotten me. I kept rising. The recognition grew. The opportunities multiplied. But it wasn't the fame that mattered. It was the peace. The freedom of knowing I no longer lived in her shadow. Sometimes, late at night, I'd scroll back through old photos of us. 2 girls laughing, dreaming, believing we'd conquer the world together. It was bittersweet. She had once been my best friend. But betrayal changes everything. And in the end, she taught me a lesson I'd never forget. Success built on betrayal never lasts. It crumbles. It always crumbles. One evening, as I stood on stage at a bigger event than I ever thought possible, the spotlight warm on my face, I realized the truth. I hadn't just survived her betrayal. I had turned it into my strength. And as the audience applauded, their voices rising around me, I whispered under my breath, "Goodbye. Lila, you're nothing but a forgotten chapter now." The applause thundered louder, and for the first time I truly felt free.